which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Thayer,
Here.
Danberg, Robine, Batcher. Here. McNally.
Here.
Turnbull.
Here.
Laker. Here. Townsend.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Mr. Gobine called me. He has a couple employees missing, so he's playing catch up with. Yeah, doing so.
And Barry Bamber came in yesterday, I believe his brother passed, brother-in-law passed away, so.
Please, I.
Special orders. Are we out of order on that?
No.
Oh,
Wait, approval of the agreement.
special orders are on the agenda. We'd like to make some changes on the new business. Like to add a number 1. Like,
You want to add number 2?
and then number 1 becomes number 2.
Okay.
Okay. Any more changes or corrections to the agenda?
One is Mike's. Motion to approve the agenda as edited.
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
The adjusted agenda is approved. Approval of minutes on January 14th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from January 14th, regular meeting.
Support.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes on January 14th. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Request to be on the agenda, there are none. Public comments once. Public comments twice. Public comments 3 times. And closes public comments. New business item number 1. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Baker. I had invited Mike Szuhkent. Most all of you know Mike, but for the people that are here in the audience, Mike is the Bridgeport, Birch Run Area Chamber Convention and Visitors Bureau President. And Mike wanted to be put on the agenda today. I was kind of afraid that we would go a little bit over kind of our allotted meeting time. So Mike is going to talk briefly for her about 5 or 10 minutes. And next month's meeting will only have one topic on it unless it's something that I really feel needs to be discussed. So we're going to allocate March 11th DDA meeting for a presentation from Mr. Mike Szuhkent. Mike?
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me here today. For those of you that know me, 5 minutes is going to be tough. I'm just going to give you a little background for those of you that do not know me or know any of my background.
Mike, could you bring the microphone in a little bit closer?
I offered him the podium, but he said he wanted to be a little bit more relaxed, and so I said, okay, you can sit there. Should be on.
It's on. It's on. Just a little bit of background. Steve gave me a long title that does not equate to any dollars, by the way. Just, you know, the more you have behind your name, it's not meaning I'm getting a large salary. Some of my experience, though, as a chamber executive, I did not go to school to become a chamber executive. I actually worked my way through a number of things to get here. I used to be a Department of Defense contractor. I did work for the Department of Defense during the first Gulf War. We owned a cut and sew operation, and we manufactured troop enclosures for the Humvees, all during that engagement. I've also worked as an account executive for a CPA firm, so I've got that experience also. I worked for Goodwill Industries. I was the Vice President of Business Development and Community Relations for Goodwill Industries. Goodwill Industries out of Flint, which has an 83,000 square foot manufacturing facility. We were a tier 1 supplier for GM, Ford, Chrysler, Visteon, and Delphi. We did recycling, we did kitting, light assembly, third-party inspections. During the North American Auto Show of 2007 down at Cobo Hall, we received an award from General Motors and the EPA in our efforts in byproduct reduction within the automotive industry. First time Goodwill has ever been recognized that. I had no experience in automotive before I started that position. Unfortunately, the downturn in 2008 cost me my job because Buick City and Delphi East and Flint were both bulldozed and are now vacant lots, and instead of moving in a different direction, the board of directors decided to focus on retail. I was a chamber member in Flushing for almost 15 years and was on the board of directors for 9, served a year as president, and I went to the board of directors and I wrote a proposal that I thought the chamber could be doing more, and they agreed, and I served as their executive director for just under 3 years. In that 3-year period of time, Flushing Chamber of Commerce saw the highest revenue it had ever seen. And when I say that, the Flushing Chamber was the oldest chamber of commerce in Genesee County, formed in 1946. We also had the highest revenue in that period of time also. It was towards the end of my 3rd year, or actually end of my 2nd year, when Mr. Andy Szuhkent came to me and said, Mike, would you be interested in coming to Birch Run? We've got some challenges in Birch Run. We have only 90 members, and our books are in disarray. The person that was there did not know how to do accounting. This is 2012. There were no tax returns filed since 2009. So they were penalties, interest, the loss of nonprofit status. Those were all on the table at that point in time. I'm happy to say that today the chamber membership is up to 230, and we're recognized as one of the top 50 chambers in the state of Michigan. In October of 2013, the Bridgeport Birch Run Chamber of Commerce in a series of meetings came together and merged. And at that point in time, we had all our printed material out there in the marketplace that it all said just plain Birch Run. And starting this year, as you can see on your places, is the new logo. The board approved that logo effective last meeting, I believe. Okay, that's right. Somebody's playing in the sunshine. I forget. So the board is moving forward on this. We've gone through a lot of changes in Birch Run also with the Chamber of Commerce and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Saginaw County CBB took away our funding in April of last year, 2014, and so we managed to live through the year and have been working diligently on getting that reestablished. I can say that at this point in time, we have a very aggressive board of directors. Our chairperson is Andy Szuhkent. Our vice chair is Steve Dilbus. Our secretary is Paul Bretsky. Paul Bretsky is the nephew of Danny Brady of Brady Business Systems. Our treasurer is Daryl Thayer. The remaining members of our elected board members are Tom Calcaterra, the owner of Uno's, Gary Putnam of Goalpost Pizza, Kathy Konezny, the general manager of Comfort Inn, Kurt Kondorsky, the general manager of Holiday Inn Express, and Mike Oligard, who is the vice president of commercial lending for Community State Bank. In addition to that, we have some very notable ex-officials. We have Cheryl Hatzel, who is our county commissioner representing the County. We have Paul Moore, who is the Village DDA Director, Brady Cotton, who is the Township DDA Director, and Rose, who is representing the Bridgeport community, when Steve's not there to represent the DDA. As you can see, it's a well-rounded board, and we have been very aggressively working on some marketing proposals. We had to split the Chamber of Commerce and the Convention and Visitors Bureau into two entities. We did that this year, and the criteria that the county had put upon us is that there was a 12-item checklist that we had to accomplish to be able to qualify for 75% of the room tax that is collected in our community. Frankenmuth did this back in 2000, and I don't want to get too much ahead of myself because that's the presentation that I'm going to bring to this board on March 11th. I just want to give a little bit of background as to where I've been and where we are today. We've got the opportunity to do some advertising and marketing to promote Bridgeport as a destination, and working with the staff in our office. As far as staff goes, we hired the former president and CEO of the Flint Area Convention Visitors Bureau, Mr. Jerry Preston, to be our vice president of marketing for the CVB. So we have the expertise to go forward on it, and you have a sample of billboards. Birch has billboards. Here is a sample of what Bridgeport could be doing. Just to give you an idea, billboards go for approximately $1,500 to $2,500 depending on their location per 4-week period. We've negotiated, because of our volume and our buying power, that billboard only cost us $500, and we pass that on to our advertisers, dividing it by $500. So there's some marketing opportunities here that are huge for this community. And as I said, at this point in time, I will step back from the microphone, field any questions, and set everything for March 11th.
I have a question. Are you gonna run out of your old business cards soon?
I hope so.
I'll make sure he does, okay?
I think I need about 100.
Okay.
I've been handing them out by the 2s and the 3s.
Thank you, Mike. So we're going to have Mike, as I mentioned, Mr. Baker, as our topic for next week. He's probably going to take an hour, and then he'll field some questions after that. So just want you all to know that's what it's going to be, because it does involve some DDA activity that not only the presentation was made to us, but the village of Birch Run and Birch Run Township. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion on Mike's presentation? Or questions about the next meeting? We'll conclude that. Business development and marketing, right in the heels of the billboard. Steve, what do you got there?
Yeah, that was a program that I had talked to you, the board, about a month or two ago, and that Tanya had worked with me, composing a letter and what Bridgeport has to offer. And now with the chamber and the CDC board, we might be able to roll a lot of this stuff all into one. But I just wanted to update you. I told you all about every week I send out 2 to 3 letters, and it takes me a little while to gather the information because I have to Google everything so I can actually get addresses, get the name of the person that's in charge, and then send off the letters, and then I'll be doing a follow-up with an email. Currently, I have sent 9. I've approached 9 different businesses. Those are Trader Joe's, Aldi's Food Corporation, Whole Food Market, Inc., Global Foods Market, Starbucks Coffee Company, Max and Irma's, Golden Corral, Cadova Mexican Grill, and Sabrara, the Italian Eatery. So, kind of focusing on some of the ones that I think would go well right now in the community. Some of them that DDA property that we own, for like example in Aldi's, may fit really nice down where the Gable Gardens is now and stuff like that. So, and I know that there's property available that is listed through realtors in our area. So I'm going to continue to do this. I'm going to continue to go after big box things, and hopefully if and when we come together with what Mike is going to present to you, we can grow not only Bridgeport, we can grow Birch Run even more. So, but I just wanted to give you an update on where I was with that. I've heard nothing from the people, and the letters went out about the second week of January. So I haven't had any response to any of those 9 companies.
Is that kind of like a job application when you mail it in, then you have to call and follow up and
Yeah.
call again? And
Yep, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't get email addresses or anything like that, but I get the name of in fact, some of them I've ran off, like Golden Corral. I got this guy's right here. Jamie was the one that told me about Max and Irma's. So what I do is I Google to get addresses where I have to send it, corporate offices and the contact person. So I'm just gonna give them probably 30 days to digest what I sent to them, and then a phone call will be followed up with that and any other literature, and hopefully we can put something together where I can actually have them come in and maybe tour the surrounding areas, Birch Run, Frankenmuth, and Bridgeport.
Okay, any more questions on the marketing? Sounds like, Steve, you got that going in the right direction with all kinds of teamwork and
Thanks.
good homework. That concludes the business development marketing presentation for today. Old business, Steve, what's on the Canoe Launch?
Not much on the Canoe Launch, other than Bill and Tanya have submitted the $50,000 grant, I believe, is that right?
Well, we're working on it,
You're
it'll be
working on
submitted by April 1st,
Okay.
and then we're working on the design on Davis Park back here.
Anything you have, Bill, on that?
Nope, that's it. Anything else on the Canoe Launch?
Nothing on that.
Okay.
Do we ask a question?
Yes.
While we're working on that Davis Park and the Canoe Launch, is there any way that we could put walkway, or look at the walkway, trying to get that finished, or going after some funds to attack them walkways?
We have had some discussion about, with Rose and Bill, and I think even with Steve a little bit, about extending that walkway. The last talk we had was about a new grant program, federal grant, flat grant program. They found out about it in December, January, and proposals were due by mid-February. So there really wasn't enough time to put something together. But the other thought on the table is that it always looks better to the grant agency, and they're really big on regional trails, not just local trails. And so possibly combining with Birch Run and Frankenmuth and coming up with an overall trail plan
That's what I was
that shows how you connect. We've had discussion about that, but, the next step would just be to find out who the players would be and start that process, and then figure out, how to fund putting that trail study together.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I was in a meeting at, I think it was the Birch Run Chamber 3 weeks ago. 3 meetings ago. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't Birch Run get some funds that they're gonna start attacking their walk. They're looking at that.
They have a section of trail that they're working on out to Fire Road.
Right.
And then I think Steve and Rose have been to the trolley line trail meeting and had some preliminary discussion with them about, combining to do this regional trail plan. I'm not sure we've spoken to Frankenmuth yet, or Bill did.
I spoke to Bill Zender at the Cass River Greenway meeting, last meeting that we had, about how can we connect Frankenmuth to Bridgeport, and how would that process work?
I think what we need to do is make sure that we gotta put our thinking caps on is how can we do that? How can we bring these communities together, these walkways?
We've done it with, probably about 5 years ago now, we did a trail plan that shows how to connect Saginaw Bay and Midland counties. So it's a loop, and we studied the routes, and we put the plan together. It was probably a stakeholder meeting of maybe about 20 people plus or minus, anywhere from, the local counties, some of the local governments, and then some friends groups, and then a few private, like there was Dow and HSC and some others that were involved with that as well. So, it's a matter of figuring out who those players need to be and how to fund it. I've also worked with Jay Rival at MDOT and talked to him about it, and I think he's talked with the Trolley Line Trail folks about it as well. So we've got some players involved and interested. It's just a matter of putting it together.
Somehow, someone, we gotta put that on thinking our tables. And do we look at it? Can we look at it? Can we afford to look at it? Or can we afford not to look at it?
Well, and getting back to that, we have, in fact, Tanya and I have discussed this in depth, and as I said, Rose went with me to the one trolley meeting. It's been 10 years in the making for the village, and it's still not complete at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong on some of this stuff, Rose. To get it to go from Bridgeport to Birch Run, we have an obstacle of Tamath Township.
That's correct.
Tamath Township does not want anything to do with this. Well, talking to Tanya, that manager or that supervisor that doesn't want anything to do with it, we still need to put the plan together, because he or she won't be there forever, but he has been really fighting anything to do with that. So then it was brought up of how can we go from Bridgeport, swing it through Frankenmuth, and then come on back into Birch Run. So there, as Tanya said, there are some obstacles that we've been kind of up against right now, but.
And I think you can either push through those obstacles in other routes, go to Saginaw County, who is, an overall, or go to MDOT, or, you put the plan in place, and over time that person changes, and maybe it does go through Tamath Township. Maybe he doesn't support it, or his board doesn't support it, but 10 years from now, it might be a totally different board, and they might see the benefits of the whole thing and then want to be, that would be a decision that group would have to make. Do you go around it? Do you create a loop that, connects all 3 communities? So you can go from Birch Run to Frankenmuth to Bridgeport back to Birch Run? Or do you just do one, loop, or, could be something that group would have to discuss and think about. I've always seen it as a, triangular piece.
As far as looking at the trail overall, it's 10 years or whatever for Birch Run. I don't think anybody here wants to wait 10 years to complete the trail around the bridge. So is there any way we can attack it without waiting 10 years to get there?
I think you can attack that now. And I'm not sure, I can't answer why they waited 10 years. I can answer in a normal trail process from beginning to end. If you have to acquire property, you're probably looking at about a 5 to 6 year period. You already have property back here, maybe you're cutting a couple of years out. But the key component, you can do it in little pieces, and obviously you're going to. But the key component to get it funded through a grant agency is to show that regional connection. I'm looking at, what I have in my hand here is the point values for, or the scoring criteria they use for the trust fund board. And the trust fund grant application has become very competitive over the past few years. But they have a section on trails. And I think that in order to get the maximum point value in trails, 50 points, the top one is a regional trail or trailhead, or a documented water trail, that's 50 points. If you know, and then it steps down to 30 points, which is a local trail. You know, you might get funded, but sometimes those extra 20 points to show the regional part of it make a big difference in whether you get funded or not. So if you have that, all I'm saying is that it looks better for you to a grant agency if you show that regional component to it. You can do a local trail. It just, competitive-wise, for the grant.
So you don't think we'll be able to get it done this summer, is that what you're saying?
You can get anything done if you got the money.
I win the lottery, we'll get it.
And to date, right now, we have set 20,000, I had Lisa move to the committed funds for, it's not on your sheet, but there is $20,000 now that has been committed. This was our 4th year. Remember, for the, yes, the $5,000, so 11, 12, 13, yeah, 11 we started at, 12, 13, we just ended up with 14, it was $20,000 that we moved over there into the, so there is, we are doing some of that, but if we want to get aggressive, then we're just going to have to get aggressive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stand up.
What's that?
I was just gonna let Daryl know, Daryl, it's on my agenda to complete the loop. That's in my
It's on all of our agendas.
thought process. Well, I know, but I wanted Daryl to know that
Thank you.
I've been thinking of ways, and actually talked to Rob Egers without Tanya knowing from Spicer on how he could do it.
Appreciate it.
So you can get it done this summer, then, is that what you're saying?
We're gonna try,
Appreciate it.
When are we gonna hear about your proposal then, based on that? What's that? When are we gonna hear about your proposal for finishing the loop?
I'm working on it, A lot of things going across my desk.
Okay, is there any more on the canoe launch?
No.
Closes the canoe launch discussion. Great Lakes Discovery Center?
Yes. The Great Lakes Discovery Center, I had brought up at the last meeting that we have 2 owners of property that are between the land swap property that Bridgeport owns. And I had to, I've got these disclaimer forms from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Basically, it just says the tax ID number, Saginaw County, do hereby aver. Aver meaning it's a fact. We looked that up because Tanya and I didn't know what the word aver meant, but that means it's a fact. That I've been mowing said land, that I claim no right, title, lien, or interest in the above described premises or any part thereof by reason of said occupancy, and will vacate the premise on February 2nd, 2015. I had to get a hold of 2 owners. They came in, they met with Rose and I, and they signed a disclaimer form that the one gentleman has been mowing it, and is, I think, going to continue to mow it, but we have both of those disclaimer forms sent into the U.S. and Fish and Wildlife. I sent those on February 4th, because I got from Sandy Darnell on February 3rd, and Chris Griffin was in to see Rose and I on January 28th. Those have now been sent to the U.S. and Fish and Wildlife. I have been in contact with Steve, who took over Jason's position, and there is nothing more at this time that I can do except wait to get on the docket to have a closing. I said, could we expect this to be closed and land swap and everything to be done in 6 months, and he said he does not see any problem. I'll believe that when I see it. But this folder is going to get filed very, very quickly, and hopefully the land swap should be done. We've done the last thing that we've been asked to do. After 18 years.
You found the name of the haystack.
19 years.
19 years in the work.
Yep.
Good job, Steve.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Steve on the Great Lakes Discovery Center? Okay, that closes the discussion on the Great Lakes Discovery Center. Beautification.
Just want to give you an update on that. At our last board meeting, the committee was selected. We met on February 4th down at Jeff McNally's place. It was a great meeting. I thought the meeting went very, very well. I have a few things that I have to inquire about. Karen had a few things that she had to inquire about. We are going to be meeting on the first Wednesday of each month at 8:30 in the morning, and it will be right here at the Township office, either in here or in one of the rooms. And Louise Davis was there, John Hoffman showed up, it was nice to see John. So we are now planning the 2015 beautification program and things that we want to do, working together now as one and not two different entities. The beautification handed me over a check for $3,119.45, which I then gave that over to Tracy. If you look at your budget sheet, you can go to line item aesthetic improvements, line item 971121. We set aside $20,000 this year for aesthetic improvements. You'll see the $3,119.45, which now we have $23,119.45. And we also have some commitments from 3 individuals to continue and to even upgrade monies that they have been giving for 3 areas, which one being the Rock, one being down at, as you come in from Buena Vista to Bridgeport, and then the other being by the railroad tracks where Chip Darrell's building now is the old chamber building. So we're hoping to have those 3 individuals come forward this year and continue their support, and that would give us more money to have it into the area. So other than that, I don't have anything else on beautification. Is that about it, Karen? Okay.
And Darryl did a nice job with that site.
Thank you. I didn't do it.
Okay, any more on beautification? That closes the discussion on beautification. Review of 4422 Williamson.
Tanya's going to speak on that. There are some sheets here. All of you got a copy of this. Does anybody need one of these? If you need one, we can pass them out. Tanya actually put a preliminary estimate cost of what the preliminary estimated cost sheet that I'm sending around. You'll also see that it's on the back page as part of the presentation that she will make. Does anybody in the audience need any? They're available to whoever.
All right, so we've been, at the last couple meetings, we presented the cost. On the one side of your sheet, you'll see the estimate, and then on the other side, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Is the consideration for the grant. So we've been working on the DNR grant application, and what I need at this point is for, you as a board to decide where you wanna be for a local match. The grant requires, so if you look at the total cost, of the project, we're looking at $398,600 based on everything that we have in our plan. We have to back out the survey cost out of that. It doesn't work to put that in the grant. It has to be funded separately. It's a timing thing. So if you do that, then you're at a cost of $394,100. And then based on that, if you look at the other side, the small sheet, I've got it set up so that you can see if you match at what is the minimum at 25%, you're gonna be given a 0 extra points in scoring, and your local match cost would be $98,525, plus your survey cost puts a total commitment at, with a 25% match at about $103,000. I would recommend that you go to a minimum of 30% match for the application to be competitive. If you're only at 25%, you're gonna be, borderline cost. And I did a pre-score based on the criteria. I've got you funded or scored somewhere between 370 and 390, and that depends on how the DNR looks at the natural resources part of it. I would hope that they would give you the full value of 40 points there, but conservatively and knowing how our area grant coordinator works, you may only get 20 there. So that's why the range. Last year, the grants that were funded at 380 points. So it kind of puts you on the cusp. And my second recommendation would be to even up that to the 40%, which puts you into 380 to 400. So that puts you at about 157,640 for match. What I suggested to Steve is that the timing of the whole thing is that the grant application is due April 1st. You'll find out a preliminary score in somewhere August, September. And at that time, you're able to supplement your application or change your match amount or do whatever based on the preliminary score that you have. And then the final recommendation is made in December. I suggested to Steve that maybe preliminarily you go in at 30%, see how your score comes out, and then when you get that preliminary score in August, September, if we felt we needed to strengthen it and bump it to 40%, maybe you do it at that time. But we'll know at that time how many points you're gonna get for that natural resources section. And if you get 40 the first time, of course we won't argue to get more because there's no more to be had, but if you only get 20 the first time around, of course we'll supplement that and try to get those 40. But
over what period of time do we have to?
your money would have to be in place about a year from now. So you probably have till about March, April of 2016.
Steve, what have we got in the budget for that?
Well, I really don't want it to come out, we have nothing in the budget for it. We're gonna solicit some grants and stuff like that. And Bill is also going to help us out on that. The one thing, Tanya, that you forgot to mention is on her preliminary scoring
Yep.
that she gets from the DNR. And we had just talked about it with what Daryl brought up as far as trailhead and stuff like
Right.
that. Your point system seems to go up higher if you use those words trailhead or trail or stuff like that. Am I right?
Right. There, yes, my suggestion, well, here's the other side of our thing, is that we've been calling this property 4422 Williamson Road. It doesn't have a name. It needs a name. And so Bill and myself and Steve have discussed that maybe we call it the Cass River Trailhead. Or if it's gonna be a regional path, maybe we call it the Trolley Line Trail. I don't know what the name of it should be. But if we can show that it is part of a regional trail, you know, I'm holding the scoring criteria here, and part of that score is the special initiatives of the trust fund board. There's 3 of them, and you don't get points for all 3 of them, you get whatever whatever section you get the most points is and what you get. So you have the potential to boost your score by 50 points. You actually get points in 2 of them, because if we call it a trailhead, you have the potential to get, I'd say, 30 to 50 points there. Or the other category that you fall in is that you're located within an urban area. So where the project is part of the urban area of Saginaw. Conservatively, under trails, I've got you figured at getting 30 points if you call it a trailhead. You get 40 points if it's considered an urbanized area. So you're gonna get, you know, either the 30, you're definitely gonna get the 40 for urbanized. It's just a question of whether you would, you know, they would bump you to that 50 category for the trailhead. I think it would be, my experience is that they're gonna not see it as regional at this point, but we can argue that case, that it is a regional path, and it will be a regional path. But we need a name.
Yeah, we can't just, she's recommending we don't say a park or a pavilion or something like that.
Right.
We gotta get,
I think
from what I gathered from you, using the word trailhead in there
Right.
is gonna get us more points on the criteria in there.
Correct.
Technically,
So there's,
excuse me, isn't that where majority of the people start walking? That's, we built the parking lot there.
right,
They park there, and I know almost, well, until this heavier snow fell, we had people walking that right around 7:30, 7:15 in the morning. They'll start walking from downtown and walk all the way around,
Right.
up Fourth and back down to the sidewalks and then
Right.
Bridgeport. Trailhead,
it is a trailhead.
It is, yeah.
Mhm.
trailhead is, to me, I thought that's always where we started with that. That's one reason why we put that parking lot there, so that people could park there and walk and invest it. Set $98,000.
With the long-term plans, we would expand into that area where the gas station was.
Right.
And the trolley used to travel down, was it a stop in that area that,
I'm sure it stopped there.
I'm not that old.
Probably not over the,
I liked the word trolley.
We could go Cass River Trolley Trailhead, you know, but maybe,
We could have a named competition. The community could get involved in naming
she's gotta get this done and in by April, right?
right.
Oh, no, can't do that.
No, so we,
What was your
one
thought?
question I have, if we pick Cass River Trailhead, can we change the name throughout?
Yeah, you
Oh.
can change it anytime you want to.
We just need to get first.
I suggested, or I think it was Bill's suggestion, Cass River Trailhead. And then the other one I said was Trolley Line Trailhead, you know, just 2 suggestions.
We've been focusing on that river for a lot of our development. I kind of like Cass River.
Can we start out at the Cass River Trailhead and then as we go down, I think it'd be kind of fun to, as we grow it, have a competition, when we really get the community involved, when we really want. I think it'd be kind of fun to do.
Historic British Trail,
Yeah.
because we've been spending a lot of money on historic bridge.
I think, Karen, I think if you start out with Cass, then change it as we get down there, get the community involved, okay, what do we really want? We get there, but I think it'd be kind of fun to put a
And
little.
you could unveil it at Bridge Fest or something, or whatever, yeah.
Or would you incorporate like Bridgeport?
If you
That localized.
You could,
More than
mhm.
Cass River is
Yeah.
long.
I mean, trails are named all different things. You have the Saginaw Valley Rail Trail, you have the Pierre Marquette, which is actually named after the railroad that it's on. You've got Lansing River Trail, you've got Kochville Trail. There's a number of, the Harger Line Trail, you know, which is up in Buena Vista here. So some of it is based on the location, some of it is based on past history of it. You can call it the historic bridge trail, I don't know, you know.
Previously funded location for our trailhead, so they get the idea that it's growing.
You don't think there's any place we can come up with any money in the DDA?
Okay, now I'm gonna get back to Jim's question of where we're gonna get that funding. So if we go the 40%, we're gonna need approximately $157,000. I did get a hold of Carl Hammond, who he's the one that was kind of pushing for this, and you guys approved that conceptual plan and we're moving forward. He indicated to us, and some of you were at that meeting, that he has wrote grants. So I did talk to him yesterday, and he's going to start some legwork on a Herbert Grace Dow Foundation grant. Is it Grecian? Gerstacker Foundation, Sterile Stacker Foundation, and the Midland Area Community Foundation, which Midland does go outside their boundaries and stuff like that. So, and then there was a few that Bill had contacted, one being the McNally Foundation, and one being the, what's the other one down there? Anderson Foundation, and a couple of those other ones. We may go after as much grant money as we can.
I know a lot of these foundations don't like to give unless there's some money.
Some commitment on, right.
So can I ask a question about our line item that's specific to the building that Mr. Hammond is interested in preserving? And I kind of brought it up before, so I'm not trying to beat this up, but the way I understand it is the historical grant isn't an option because it has been edited so much that the building's not truly its original form anymore. So is it important to have a line item of $150,000 if we can't get any granting for that particular building? Or can we just create a less expensive line item product and make it look old with all the creative people that are out there right now? And an example I would give is on my way to the hospital on Washington, there's that old gas station that they painted, and it looks amazing. So couldn't we save the community and ourselves some funds by maybe reducing that line item with the communication to Hammond that we understand the value that it had, but it really has no value, and it's costing us more money to refurbish this than to create something and give it the historical component.
That's half the cost of the whole project.
I know. So I don't know, you don't want to offend the gentleman, and we all understand that that building has been there forever, but at the same time, it's not our job to waste money. And I feel that that particular line item does that. So therefore, we would have less of a 40% if we could reduce that particular. And I don't know what that reduction would be. If we're talking 60,000, it's $60,000.
We'd have to take a look at.
So I kind of feel, I know it's late in the ballgame, but I did touch on it previously, that I thought that was an opportunity. So I would really push that we focus on that for maybe a couple days and see what we can do.
I've seen that building you're talking about painted up.
Yeah, they've done a nice job.
They did a nice job with that.
I think it was a really neat concept, but, I mean, there's just some talent out there that we could get our hands on, plus the old accessories, if you will, and we could make it look amazing. And the whole, not everybody has to know that we demoed it, but it feels like that's kind of the best financial spot to be in.
So you're suggesting make it look like the old gas station, and not spending the money?
Yeah.
It's just that we wouldn't get any historical value out of it because it doesn't comply.
Yeah, that's what we established.
Yes.
Part of that was including restrooms too. So
Right.
you wouldn't have.
We were gonna convert it to a restroom
Yeah.
building.
Are you saying don't convert to a restroom?
We say demo that spot, make a restroom there that looks like an old gas station.
With an entirely new building?
I don't
Of
know.
course.
Well,
We have to Cost both ways to see if.
Here's the other part of that site that you need to, and I think you're already aware, that you have contamination from the old gas tanks. And so once we start to demo that building, we get a little bit closer to that contamination and having the cost of whatever
Remediation in the soil.
might be involved with that. And I don't know at this point what that is, without, going through the design process. I think to leave the existing building, where you're not digging into that, is probably a better option. So you either totally demo that building, and not have, maybe the restroom could go anywhere then, but the major part of the contamination is where the gas tanks used to be, which is on
Right.
this side and the Williamson, the State Street and Williamson side of that building. So,
What did you say, the slab?
well, you could possibly save the slab. You still, but you gotta make sure that I don't know what kind of foundation that building has that would support a new building, so.
Okay.
But to put in plumbing for a restroom, you're digging into that anyway, right?
Well, you already have plumbing there, that comes into that site. Yeah, you would be digging into it, just a matter of
How far?
how much and how far, and, if you left some of the existing plumbing that comes into the building, I don't know whether that is gonna be I guess the way I saw it is it would either be a 1 or 2 unisex unit, with, some facade on it that made it look like it used to. And maybe you get a little bit of storage out of it, I don't know, but there's not much room to do. I think you're gonna be lucky to get 1 unisex restroom out of that building. It's not very big.
Tanya, how much money, as Jeff is saying, they like to see, a certain amount of money from the DDA, how much would you say that we would have to be looking at in the budget?
Just my gut
To
says
send out
maybe
the
50.
50?
That's just I don't know. I think, like the Castle Water Trail, I think the township put in 10.
Yeah.
So somewhere between maybe 10 and 50, but you've got a bigger project here. So you might be looking at putting more in. What's your thoughts on that?
I would guess at least 10%.
Okay. So you're looking at 40,000.
And then I feel that, I didn't see irrigation.
You did see?
I didn't see irrigation in here, is that in there?
It's in there, I thought. Yeah, it's under line item number 4, landscaping and irrigation.
Perfect, thank you. I'll have my glasses.
I also brought that question up to Jeff, that if we can't get the funding, basically we would just have wasted just the money for the grant writing, right, Tanya?
Right.
Which
Yep.
would have been that $3,000 or something that you guys approved, so. I'm going back and forth there.
Well, my only thought is we went for the foundations last year for them,
Yeah,
and
and that was a concern.
a lot of times they don't, like they don't work on before.
And there was, I think, discussion about possibly not going after the same ones as Bill went after,
That's
maybe
right.
looking at a new set. There's some that he didn't go after.
The middle.
And all those that were on Steve's list, I didn't go after any of those. Birch Stacker, Dow Grace, I didn't go after any of those. So,
So when you had commented before that the project itself can be tweaked, right? So,
It can be at this point. I think once we get the grant and the grant's awarded, you can tweak it a little bit, but your basic scope items would need to stay the same. So if you say you're gonna do a restroom now, and you decide not to do it, then that's a huge scope change they consider, so.
so if you relocated on the site, is that a big
What's
problem?
that?
If you relocated on the site, is
That's
that
not a
one?
big deal.
Okay.
Yeah. You're not set in stone to how this is laid out, that can change.
So Karen, is it that line item, that's the 150,000, number 7, right? Of how we can get that to go down?
But regardless, I guess all we have to decide today is we have to come up with 50,000, right?
Roughly 40, 50,000.
And the other side of it too is that, the township has, at the board meeting on Tuesday, they'll be passing a resolution that commits the township to the funds. So, so we have to decide today what you want that match to be. And regardless of whether, you know, it's all put in by the DDA or partial by DDA and foundations, you've gotta decide what you want your commitment to be, where you wanna be. And then if you're gonna go after the foundations,
Be discussing and possibly looking for
Yes.
the other on the board.
Where are we on this discussion?
so there's really three things you need to decide. You need to decide what your percent match is gonna be, which ultimately what your dollar amount's gonna be. Second thing is, how much as a DDA do you wanna commit to it right now, so that you can start to go after your foundations? And the third thing, I don't know if you need formal action but the name.
You're recommending 40%, Tanya?
I would, well, to get you to what I know comfortable today, point-wise, I would be very comfortable if you said 40%. If you said 30%, I would be okay knowing that if we had to change it in that supplemental information period, that you could do that if you had to. So I say 30% or 40%.
30% is a safe bet because we can change it to 40%.
Right. You can change it.
So what happens if we're unable to come up with a 30%?
Then you turn the grant back.
Project don't go on.
Or you withdraw
If we
it.
get this grant, when do we have to,
I'm sorry, what?
if we get the grant, when do we have to?
You would have to have it in place by probably March or April of next year.
We have to have our plans in place.
Your money in place, yeah. You'll sign at that point. So the grant is awarded in December, and then it has to go through legislation through the state level. And then once that's done, you get a grant agreement. And at the time you sign the grant agreement, the township board is passing a resolution basically saying, we have this money in place and we're committed to this project.
And when does the project have to be started that same year?
You have 2 years from the time that grant agreement is signed. So the earliest that grant agreement would come out would be March, April. It has come out as late as July, August, I think 2 years ago. So somewhere, it depends on the legislation and when that takes place.
So we could budget some money next year towards this as a part.
Certainly.
Hey, Tanya said there are three things we recommend we handle today. One is percent match. And how much is the DDA gonna commit? The name of the site. Talked about all three of these. Okay, what kind of action needs to be taken here?
Well, I think if we go with the Bridgeport Cass River Trailhead, that's kind of a no-brainer. We can change it, right, Tanya? We can change the name. I agree with Augie, I like having the word Bridgeport in there. So that's really nothing really big. You want that word trailhead in there, right?
Yeah.
So we get more points. Then you guys gotta decide if you wanna go 30 or 40%. And then we gotta set 10% aside into our budget, and then I'm gonna have to get creative with, because I haven't wrote grants with Tanya and with Bill and hopefully Carl Hammond.
So if we go with your name of the site, the temporary name of the location.
Yep, the Bridgeport Cass River Trailhead,
And
unless you wanna try something else.
I think Cass River is generic, it doesn't tell us where in the town it is. So I think Historic Bridge says, hey, I'm right here, everybody's been talking about me for 5 years.
historic bridge trailhead.
That's one
I
I
like
like.
that. That's good.
Bill?
Can I just say something?
Yes.
I think, and Tanya might agree with me, if you throw Cash River in there, the DNR is gonna say, Cash River, yes. Just my opinion. I mean, Tanya and I were both down at the state conference, and I met with some of the DNR folks, and when you mentioned Cash River, you
They
mentioned
go-
a river, water, they're
You
happy.
go over natural resources, yeah.
All right, we'll change it later.
But going along
Always
with,
change.
Go to the Cash
After
River
you did
Trailhead.
it,
After-
after-
everybody knows where it's at,
Remember,
we'll
you
change
said
it.
you thought it'd be great for the city, the township people
Yeah.
would get involved and change it. I think right now, run with Bridgeport Cash River,
Get the money and then.
get the
figure it
money,
out.
then do what you want to do after you
Right.
get the money. I mean, after you get the money, when it's done,
We could just put that name on the application, and then if you want a motion to, for a formal name later, do that. But at this point, we'll just put that on the grant application, they'll like that.
Because if you make it too long, it costs a lot more.
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, that's my fault.
So if you make the name too long, it costs a lot more money for the sign.
Exactly. You're thinking,
Okay, on the percent match,
I don't know.
30%, because we can change that later.
Mhm.
And
I would be prepared or think for, like, at your September meeting,
our budget
just
meeting,
keep
we'll
note
have
that you may,
40%.
hopefully we'll have our preliminary score at your September meeting, and we'll be able to address that.
And how much is the DDA gonna commit? Based on the percentages?
We talked about 10% of the total project, which would be
Can
about
we find
40,000.
15,000 this year, and next year, and the following year? 45,000.
I have a question.
Well.
This is the budget for this year, this is what comes in, what goes out.
Right.
Do we have other funds that are not on the budget?
We have assets that are, yeah, you have assets and, the money that is, where I had to transfer that, I'm drawing a blank. Committed funds, you can't touch any of that stuff. The only other money that we can get, it's as the taxes and stuff come in, then it goes into the cash in the bank, but you have to kind of stick to what the budget is here, because then we would be overspending that money.
And this is just pretty much budgeted income and liabilities.
Don't we have, forget what they call it, don't we have money in the bank outside of this, what's coming in?
That's what I'm asking.
Wouldn't it, what do you call it?
That's the same, right, Lisa? That's the money that's in the bank, is the budget. Well,
From
there's,
pre-
no,
from previous years.
there's money in the bank, yeah, from previous, there might be 12 from the other year and stuff from the other year. I didn't bring my sheet with me. But there's always money there because of the way the taxes are all paid. Is that right, Tracy? When the taxes come in, that money just goes into the bank,
My question,
you know?
I think Jeff's got a good point here. The 15,000 for the next 3 years would be up to 45,000. Now, our increase this year on taxes, does anybody remember, didn't go up like 18,000 or something like that? Our income? Am I shooting the wrong number?
No, where you're getting that $18,000 from, that was what we received a check back from the, property taxes that they, or the, personal property taxes that they had taken that away, and then we had to, right. Yeah, so the personal property taxes where the state sent us that check for 18.
Okay, so with our taxes, our money increasing, how much did it increase this year?
I don't know that formula. I've never known what that formula is, how they do that.
I don't recall it going up that much this year, but I can look into it and.
I thought for think we can, I think we look at that, we'll come up with that $15,000 a year, and we can have a kitty of about 45,000. Because you're saying we need it within,
You need it a year from now, so you might have to do,
you might, we could get creative a little bit on
Yeah.
this, but I think that would be the best way of budgeting that number in.
Okay,
Because now that doesn't mean you're stealing from this one and paying from the other.
I mean, you could, you could do 15 per year. Maybe that last 15 isn't in place until you go to construction, but that would put your, if the grant's awarded December of 15, you design it in 16, you bid it out in the winter of 16, 17, and go to construction in 2017.
Yeah, as long as we have that fund there, we should be okay.
Yeah.
I'm concerned, Daryl, about the presentation that Mike is going to make in 2 weeks. Of also that money that the board is not aware of until that presentation that was discussed at the chamber.
Talking about the visitor bureau?
But between,
Yeah. So I'm just forewarning you that when Mike makes the presentation in 2 weeks, he is going to be asking for some money for the DDA for marketing and campaign and the Convention Visitors Bureau. Am I right on that? I have a scope of it right now. So I'm nervous because of what he's going to ask for, and this money here, there's just not the money in the budget for that. Unless I go through this and see where I can tweak this year, and I can't answer that question right now. If we're looking at trying to find 15, 20,000 for this year, or 50, and what we're gonna ask for, absolutely the money is not there. I'm sorry, it's just not there.
Well, I agree with Karen on that $150,000 building. We can do a lot. I mean, you build a mansion for $150,000. Something needs to be done about that $150,000.
Tanya, could you work on that?
I can work on that.
If we gave Tanya that project there to see what she can do based on what you said about
What's the
the
square
building
footage
and
of that little
what
building
Eugene's
there?
talking about, and bring it back to that. You'd have to bring it back to the March 11th meeting, right? Which I was going to just allocate Mike for that meeting, but I'm sure we could spend, 10 or 15 minutes on that topic item, because you have to have this done by April
Well,
1st.
Township Board's taking it on Tuesday,
Okay,
and so the resolution has to have
the percent.
the dollar amount somewhere.
But you don't need to know what the DDA's gonna
Um,
be. We don't need that for the township.
You don't need that for the Township Board, but you have to know how much the DDA is comfortable with. And because
Well, they just
the
said
local
30%.
match and the grant amount separately are two separate line items in that resolution.
But you want them to get money to go after foundations. That's where you're at now. They already said 30% of what the match is gonna be.
You wanna be at 30%, is that right?
Amanda downstairs.
No, Amanda's off.
So how much you wanna commit, I don't have to know that today. I mean, that's something that
On a budget.
we can do
So,
on March 11th.
okay.
Yeah. But I'll have to get you, I'll have to have that reworked by Tuesday for the building.
So you'll see if you can bring this $150,000 thing down to
I think so.
a different scope so that we,
I think so, yeah, because that included, possibly moving the door and redoing that window across the front, and if we're not gonna make it, if we're not gonna restore it to look like the gas station, then if we're just gonna do a block building, then I think we can do it for a little less.
I thought the proposal was, even though we didn't get any historical credit for it, we were gonna make it look like the old gas station.
You're not gonna get historical credits
Right.
for it, yeah, so.
We can paint the outside to look like the old gas station and have the inside be a bathroom with, travel stations.
I need to know if there's enough room to put a unisex bathroom in there.
There's enough room. There's enough room to do one. possibly two. Let me go back and rework it and see, and then, 150 is, I mean, pretty conservative number. You don't wanna ask for too less, but, or, you know, but,
Thinking in today's
I
market.
think if we're, let me see what we can work out. What?
I'm thinking in today's building and construction marketplace, the 150,000 doesn't go too far, but. stick with it.
Not for a commercial, park restroom building, because you want, I mean, it's not like building a house. You know, you gotta have your commercial grade equipment and contractors for that, costs a little more.
Okay, is there anything more on the Bridgeport Cass River Trailhead project?
I don't think so. Thank you, Tom.
The motion before. Just doing research.
Do we need a motion for that to approve the 30% match and the name? And I don't think it'll hurt anything,
I think just for the 30%.
just for the 30%.
Yeah. And it's, you might as well do both, just to get, so you have that Bridgeport Cass River.
So we'll need a motion and stuff on that.
I need a motion.
You make a motion that we call the project the Bridgeport Cass River Trailhead project with
Yeah.
30%.
With a match of 30%.
You don't want two separate ones?
Do you want two separate ones? Or
Yeah.
just all in one?
Let's have two
You can do it.
separate ones.
I would do two.
Okay.
Two separate ones.
Two separate ones.
Okay, there's a motion on the.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? That motion carries. Knowing that's a temporary name. And we need a motion for the 30%.
Make a motion that we have a matching 30%. How are we gonna put that? Well, what's the proper wording for what we're gonna do with the 30%?
For the.
30% match.
30% local match,
Yeah, grant match.
grant match, local match for the DNR grant.
Make a motion, we approve 30% grant match for the Bridgeport Cass River Trailhead project.
Is there a second?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so we no longer call it the 4422 Williamson Road project. I-75 Billboard update.
Just an update that I hope some of you had a chance to go down northbound 75.
Yes.
I'm hearing some nice comments on the sign.
Yes.
Bill's been paid, came in. Yeah.
Now I have a question.
Sure.
I went down there, I took a picture of it. The sign looks great. My only problem is the outside of it, the yellow.
Yeah.
We have to redo
The
that.
framing of it should have been painted probably, right?
Yeah.
I noticed that.
You can look at this, I stopped, I walked, and I know I shouldn't have did that, but, the sign looks beautiful, but now,
Raggedy.
the outside of it, the yellow, the paint is like all chipped off.
I'll get a hold of Swartz Graphic, and that might be a Munchie problem where he has to come in there again and.
I think that guy would probably allow us, but.
Oh, yeah, he'll allow us to come in there, but we're gonna have to have that bucket to get up
Yeah.
in there, and I'll get a cost on it.
Yeah, I think. we
I
need to
agree,
do
it
so.
does, yeah, the
I
sign.
mean, it looks great, but if we can just brighten that up, because if you would take the yellowness from inside the sign and match on the outside, I think that would really
Yeah,
blow it out. I like what I see. I just don't think the yellow on the outside of it is really dim, and it's all chipped off. If we would take that yellow from inside the sign, put on the outskirts, we'll sure make it look.
paint the
Make it
whole,
a lot
whole sign
brighter
border.
interior.
Yeah,
I think that sign is really sharp.
yeah.
And would you do it in the yellow?
Yeah, I would.
Keep it right at the order of it.
Yeah, now you're looking at Discover US, Visit Michigan's #1 historic bridge, and that's all the same yellow,
Okay.
not another yellow. Anything.
Yes. Okay, any more discussion on the billboard? Let's move on to the Carpenter Plaza.
Yeah, the last thing, and then that'll close the chapter of this. When somebody disconnects, or when somebody, a business or a homeowner moves out or whatever, and there is it's called the ready to serve for your water, ready to serve for your sewer, that type of stuff, which goes into the water department's budget and stuff like that. So on the ready to serve, there are 3 water connections there at the Carpenter Plaza, doing the back building, which I call the mall, doing the other one, which I call the laundromat. The ready to serve charge every 3 months for the back building is $124.13, and the ready to serve for the front building is $49.65 every 3 months. Yearly, those charges come to $695.12. The bid from Roadies to demo that it includes all that, just like when we did that house over there. But talking to Ruth Ann, I don't see us demoing that building for 3 to 5 years or whatever, based on the cost of what that building is. So I don't want to have these ready to serve charges. So we need to disconnect those 3 water connections, and Jones Contractor is what Bridgeport Township uses to use those, and then it would cost approximately $500. She said it might even be a little less than that. So we'd have a one-time fee of approximately $500 to stop the ready-to-serve charges, which is going to be $695.12 per year. So we don't do anything for that for 4 or 5 years. I don't want to keep incurring those charges. It would be shut right down at the road. So I need approval to let Ruth Ann get a hold of Jones, and unless you want to, but it doesn't make any sense.
The water's shut off anyway, right?
The water is shut off, but you still have to pay the ready-to-serve charge. Water's been shut off for years, but you pay the ready-to-serve charge.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Let's get that disconnected.
Okay. I'll have Ruth Ann get a hold of Jones's Contracting, and then that will be disconnected at the road there, 3 of them.
Make a motion to approve spending not more than $500 to have the water disconnected at the Carpenter Plaza.
Support?
Need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. There is no closed session. Steve, do you have anything more on the coordinator's report?
No, all set.
Member comments?
I have no comments.
Just, I think, we already discussed the trail and that kind of thing. And there's 2 things I in particular would like to see, and I'm sure many others would also, but the trail being completed is one of them. And then the other one is whatever efforts we can make to get somebody in that, what used to be a hotel, do something with that boarded up building that is an eyesore as people are going into Bridgeport.
I've already talked to, actually, he contacted Amanda, the assessor, and then I have been in contact with him. And he's currently working through a real estate company, selling it for $1.4 million. His name is Jack Burns, and so I have had several conversations with him about that.
All set?
I'm good.
Okay. Maybe a motion to adjourn?
Support.
And the next meeting will be on the 11th. 2 weeks.
Adjourn.